Okay, I will call this meeting to order. First order of business is to select a chair and vice chair.
I'd like to make a motion to elect Shirley Green as chair.
Do I have a second?
I would have to nominate Dan Reagan.
Okay, do we have a second on the first one?
Sure, second.
So a second on Jim? Or Shirley? Is there any
Discussion?
So do we need a
Discussion.
second for the second
we
nomination?
can do that and then have
Okay, I
discussion,
see.
but we have to vote on the first motion
Sure.
first.
Well, for a nomination?
Well, we can take another nomination,
Okay.
so. Do I have a second on Dan?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. Jill, second?
I'll start the discussion. This is the most uncomfortable way I could imagine starting a select board meeting, because I have the utmost respect for Shirley, and I think she would do a fantastic job. Having said that, I'm also interested and would welcome the nomination.
Would you accept, Shirley? I guess we can do
Yeah, I
that part,
would.
yes.
You're not saying it isn't uncomfortable.
Is Kristen online?
Don't see her yet. Is she? Unless no, she hasn't been in.
No, she's,
Yeah, no one's trying to get in.
okay, we didn't miss them. Because I haven't gotten into Teams yet.
So is there any other discussion? Anybody else have a comment?
The reason I made the motion is Shirley's been vice president, vice chair, whatever you want to call it, a number of times here and has that experience. And I think a lot of times she's run the meetings, we've done fine with it. Seems to me she's very pleasant about things, but gets the job done. And certainly has a lot of experience.
Although Dan's experience in committees has been perhaps more limited time-wise than Shirley's, the occupational experience with budgeting and finance and leadership, I think, have really qualified him for that role as well.
Any other discussion?
It's gonna be tough because I have been on boards with both of you, and I think that both of you would do an amazing job, and different techniques. You know, I mean, Dan, I've seen you take situations that were becoming contentious and, you know, bring it right around and still lead the meeting. And Shirley, I mean, you with your vast knowledge, and as long as you've been on the budget committee and stuff, you know, and I've seen you lead meetings also, so.
I think they both have their merits. I'm thinking that you like to get into the nitty-gritty and study and things like that. And so to me, when you're chairing, it's harder to be a chair and get that stuff out. So to get the best of both worlds, I would, to me anyways, Shirley would be a good chair. And then you're there plugging away at things like you did last year and bringing up your points and so on. And I think it's hard. It's like trying to take minutes when you're a secretary on a board. It's very hard to do both, you know. So
The other major role that the chair does is presentation at town meeting. And I haven't seen you in large group. Sure.
I will just say that's not the chair's job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the committee can choose whoever they want.
Okay.
To do that,
It was
it's
a
not-
job the entire time I've been on.
Yeah, Dimitri always did it, and I think people liked him to do it, but it's not
Even-
the chair's job to do
Right.
that.
I know I'm not part of the group anymore, Ed, but as long as I can remember, the chair has always done the presentation at the town
Yeah.
meeting.
The law on chair, right, for any committee, not just this committee, the law in New Hampshire is very specific about what isn't included in roles. And so in New Hampshire, anything that isn't expressly included in the role is actually excluded by law. And so there are two functions of a chair of every committee. This includes select board. And one is to lead the meeting, and two is to guide discussion and oversee voting, right? And that's it. There's no meeting decisions, there's no setting. So you guide discussion of the full group, but everything is at the consensus of your full board. And that's how the law is in New Hampshire.
If it wasn't somebody that I like so much, I would now give a full presentation of why I think it should be me. But I will repeat, if this group decides to put Shirley in that role, I'm 100% behind it, and I will support Shirley completely. So up to you all. Whatever you decide is fine with me.
Any more discussion?
I thought we'd have a hard time finding someone willing to do it.
Seeing none, I think I'll do this by a raise of hands. We don't have to do roll call, but those in favor of Shirley Green being chair, please raise your hand. Two. Those in favor of Dan Regan, please raise your hand. Okay, Dan, it is your meeting.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, Shirley, I'm sorry that it went that way.
Well, not a problem for me. I was
Yeah,
surprised.
Vice Chair.
It wasn't something that I had.
So here's the only thing I can say is, I guess, is thank you. I will work hard. I will make mistakes, and I will work hard. Those are my three promises. And we'll figure it out. I now would like to move the meeting on to elect a vice chair. Any nominations?
Dave?
I nominate Shirley.
Do we have a
I
second?
second.
Okay. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of Shirley Green as the vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Great, Shirley. I look forward to working with you in this capacity too.
Yes.
Good, 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 good. So just to bring it full circle, for those that don't know me well, you'll quickly learn that I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I am following Dimitri, who I think is one of the three most intelligent people I've ever met. Just not only a rocket scientist, but also understood finance and accounting very, very well. So I will not be another Dimitri. That's not my style at all. My style is more tap into the very, very intelligent people that you have around you. So I'd like to share with you maybe a little bit later an idea that I have that we can be tapping into some of the brilliant people that we have. I do have some ideas. There's some things that I would like to do differently, but as Kate said, and I think it was right on point, my job is no more important than anybody else's. My job is just keep the meeting going and make sure that we're hitting the points that we need to hit. And it's also maybe working with Ed a little bit more. That's not in the job description, but I do see myself speaking with Ed, the select board a lot, and Elisa a lot as well. But I am looking forward to it, actually. So before we move on, one of the things I'd love to do is, I know we all know each other, but I don't know everything about everybody here. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about who you are, what's your experience in accounting and finance, what's your experience perhaps on the budget committee, how many years have you done it? And just get to know kind of about what we've got. We start with David.
And she can't come either.
Well, I've been in the community for 2 years, and most of that was in in the role of practicing physician and running first as junior partner and then as sole physician in a very small practice in town. So my experience with budgeting expenses, et cetera, has been at that very small business level primarily. I was moderator for 28 years and have a lot of experience and interest in good process. In terms of the spreadsheets, budgets, that sort of thing, I'm very slow, not particularly facile, but look at big picture, long-term trends much more than I look at the details, although I'm willing to spend the time when needed to go through some of that, as we found last year.
And how many years have you been on budget committee?
This is my 3rd year.
You weren't on this the first full term you've done? Okay.
Well, it was split term 1 and 2.
Gotcha. Okay. Jean? I know, you're here, so please.
Well, I mean, I worked in New Hampshire schools for almost 23 years and worked very closely with directors, developing budgets and spending a lot of time with details, providing lots of supporting documentation, which is one of my pet peeves. Obviously, my husband and I have been running a business for a long time, and I'm the volunteer bookkeeper and all else. Been in town for 53 years. Feel like I know the town well and have a good sense of finances about things. So.
Okay, thank you.
And I served on the budget committee 2 times, 2 years this time, 4 years previously. So.
Thank you. Jill?
Jill Banowski, resident of this town for 13 years or so now, and my whole career pretty much has been accounting and or finance, corporate, small business, and personal financing, and the budgeting that goes along with that. I really, it's kind of my first love, and so when the opportunity to work on the budget committee came up, I was like, yeah, that really strikes me, that fits my interests, so I'm really interested in getting work, and personally live with my husband. We love to hike and travel.
Sorry, that's my bad. We got a little technical. There we are.
Tina?
Tina Stearns, I've been in town over 20 years, grown up in the Upper Valley, Lebanon, Grantham area. Retired from my 20 years in municipal finance. Started out as town clerk tax collector, town administrator, deputy finance director, and then did as finance director. A lot of experience in that, also a lot of experience. My husband and I have had a company in town for almost 30 years, and I do all the accounting and everything for that, so very familiar with town budgets and everything that goes into them.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Jim?
Well, I certainly can't claim many generations of experience in Enfield, but since I bought my land here about 10 years ago, I'm at least beginning to get to know the place. I'm glad to know all of you. I've been on the budget committee twice. Well, no, one stretch, but under 2 different flags or something. I came in mid-year, and then I started a 3-year term after that. This is the 2nd year of the 3-year term. I guess this is my first experience with municipal finances. I have quite a bit of experience with corporate finances. It's different, but at least I know about the importance of getting the numbers right.
Yeah. And a lot of data analytics in that
Right.
time. Yeah. Good.
Ed Morris, town manager.
Enough said.
Been involved in finance for a long time in the municipal side. I've been I've been a manager for going on 11 years now. And before that, I was a worker in government, so, yeah. Good. Okay.
I'm Kate Plumley Stewart. I've been here for 45 years, going on 46, and my entire career is in supply chain and finance and doing work for Treasury. I have a consulting practice where I go places that might need a little fill-in, a little trouble, and maybe some forensics, and I go into the background and I live in spreadsheets. I do advanced analytics and forecasting. I was on the school board for 4 years. I was chair for 3, and this is my 9th year on the select board. So I love to play in spreadsheets. It's my favorite. It really is.
Shirley Green. I have been on the budget committee since 2002. And over my lifetime, I have been on many boards and currently the treasurer of 3 that date back to early 2000s and one of them in 2011. And I also my working life was in schools and my strength was in math, which I love. And I think one thing we also have to remember that this is a municipal budget and a municipal committee, and we can't run it like a corporate one. We can take strengths from there, but we have to abide by the RSAs, the way we conduct our meetings. And we're a team.
Jane Plumley. Years ago, I would guess maybe late 70s, early 80s, I was on the budget committee for a couple terms. I was on the planning board. I was pretty instrumental in developing Shaker Recreation Park when the opportunity for the land was there for free. And people told me nobody's ever going to use it. But indeed, when you go by now, it's being heavily used, and I think the town had good foresight when they voted yes for the recommendations of what we wanted to do. And then I've been on budget committee 1 3-year term, and I'm in the 3rd year of my 2nd 3-year term. I was a mathematics teacher at the high school for about 20 years. I worked in the middle school for a year, Cannon Elementary for 5, and helped develop the preschool that was at the Lutheran Church when my kids were young. So I've done a lot of volunteering in Enfield. I've lived here a long time. I was actually here when I was in 1st grade, and then my parents moved to Hanover when my dad was teaching there. But my senior year, they moved back here. So that was in the 70s. And I have 4 kids that all went to school here, grew up in this community. They all live within 5 miles of my house, and very active in town and other civic organizations. I'm the treasurer of the Lutheran Church now in my 11th year. So not municipal budgeting, but it's tricky budgeting because you don't have any definite income. And I don't know, I've done a variety of things. I keep busy, no problem there. So here I am. Definitely no more than I did years ago when I was on the committee, and it was very different then because you didn't get computer spreadsheets. Really different. But I can muddle my way through and get the essence of it, maybe not all the details.
I'm John Klug. I live up on Klug Road. I arrived there about the age of 3. My parents established a summer inn. I worked there, went to school here in elementary school, then to Kimball Union for high school, UNH, Haverford College, came back and taught school for 50 years. An English teacher. I will reveal the fact I barely passed Algebra 2. So that puts my mathematical creds in perspective. On the other hand, I did the bookkeeping later in life for the inn, and got audited by the New Hampshire Room and Meals Tax people who are very finicky. I spent about 6 hours in my living room, and he finally, he sent me a little, quest. I need this, I need this. And finally he said, well, John, you passed. You're within the 3% margin of error. But can I give you a piece of advice? And I said, yeah, sure. You should take some courses in accounting. I did not do that.
Or hire an accountant.
I've been a selectman 15 years. I've been on I started out actually on the ZBA and then selectman, planning board first for several years, then budget committee, then back to the planning board, and back to the budget committee. And I don't know what the next step will be here. I enjoy working for the town. I really like this town. I like the people. I like the environment. And, I do my best to try to help us conserve the town and yet at the same time try to make it a little bit better. Thank you.
So I'll finish with, I'm Dan Regan. I have been living here full-time now, this stint, for about 3 years. I became Shirley's neighbor in 1992. And we have both enjoyed that lake for many, many years. My background is I graduated from UMass, degree in economics, and spent the bulk of my career in the biotech world, eventually being a general manager. So I am not coming in here and I don't have the level of expertise that other people have as it relates to accounting and finance. I know accounting and finance. I have an MBA in finance, but I didn't do it for a living. The thing that I pride myself on is I think I was a very, very good general manager, and I had a group like this around the table that represented probably 10 different disciplines. Every one of them knew their area of expertise better than I did, and my job was to get the most out of that team and move forward with it. And I really enjoyed that. I also, John, love this town. We made a decision, probably 15 years ago, when we were just summer people at the time, that we were going to come back and this is where we're going to die. So some people, were lucky enough to be born here. I chose to die here, so. It's a wonderful place, and I mean this even if John and Kate weren't here. I think the leadership of our select board is fantastic. I really enjoy them. I enjoy all the committees in town. I think we're all doing the right thing. So everybody here is a volunteer. So thank you for volunteering your time. I know what that means. It means you're not doing some other things you might like to be doing more. But we're doing it for the right reasons, so thanks. I'm looking forward to this year, and let's get on with it, okay? So first thing we need to do is decide an evening to meet. What we did last year was Thursdays at 6:30. I'll throw it open. What do folks think? Anybody got a strong preference? Sure.
I like Thursdays at 6:30, except the first Thursday of the month. I have Conservation Commission.
You can't have this room.
I would say if we do Thursdays, I would recommend the second and fourth, just because I'm doing select board first and third, and it just gives us a little bit more time to get the work done.
Okay.
And Thursdays work great for me.
Others?
As good as any.
Good.
There's
All
always
right,
something that comes
let's
up.
do Thursdays at 6:30. Second, fourth, sure. We'll have to work on the schedule as it goes along. What I'd like to do is several things I'm going to get to that I'd like to do that maybe we haven't done in the past up front, including training. And then when we get into like June, July, maybe it isn't every other week, but then when we start getting into certainly August, that's when we start hitting every other week. But let's see if we can maybe get the first 3 meetings nailed down or something, first 2 or 3 nailed down, and then we'll figure it from there, okay? So So the next thing on the agenda is review of the onboarding materials. So Ed sent on the actual agenda, there's some links. And I don't know if everybody got a chance to go through these, but I did. And there's some excellent information in there. That first link, that first attachment says onboarding materials. If you click on that, it comes to a page which has a link to the town website. And then you click on that link, and then it goes to two very important links. One, onboarding materials for all boards, and then one is additional material for budget committees. If you go into that second link, it then brings you to another page, which is page 3, and there's like 9 not agenda items, but a table of contents. There's 9 items on there. The first one is, I think, extraordinarily important, and it's this one from the National New Hampshire Municipal Association, and it's the basic laws of budgeting. It's thick. I don't think anybody's going to get through it in one sitting, but Ed passed out earlier this evening kind of the Cliff Note version of this. So I would encourage everybody, if you haven't before, even folks that have been on the committee before, if it's been a while, take a look, start diving in there. And there's some very good information, not only there, but in all the other links that he provided as well.
And the first few items that we kind of chatted about, those are in your packet.
Yeah.
And then there's some places you can go and find some additional resources, so yeah.
So there's a couple I think that are real important that we mentioned here tonight. And if you want to jump in, anybody wants to jump in, please do. But one is the idea of a quorum. So everything that we do, we have to do in public. Okay, so this meeting public. Hopefully we get people here this year that want to hear what we have to say and want to, when it comes to the public comment section, they want to jump in, and it's more than welcome. So it's a group of 9. Once we get filled, the select board still has to elect their designee. And we'll have Kristen with us. She's not here tonight, Kristen Bean.
She tried earlier, but
Nancy's not here either. And Nancy will be with us. So there'll be 9 of us. So quorum means that we have 5 people. So anytime 5 of us get together, we have a quorum, whether that's in an official meeting or that's out and we all decide, hey, let's get together and let's talk about that DPW budget. You can't do it. We have to come into the meeting, we have to call an official meeting, it has to be made public notice. So there's a lot of rules there, so we just have to be careful with that.
And the law is that even if it's serial, non-continuous meeting, so that if you have 5 people in sequence, that's still a quorum.
So you're saying if the meeting ends and 5 people meet in the parking lot to chat, no?
Well,
No.
No, if you-
Electronic is what I'm talking about, is you can't do sequential
Yes.
that involve a quorum. of
I'll
it.
say electronic or voice.
Right.
If you talk to Dave and Jill, and then they talk to a couple other people,
Yeah.
you just broke the law.
it's a sequential so sequential, I think, is the word you wanted to use.
Thank you for that.
So there shouldn't be anything discussed that the rest of the budget committee isn't included
And the public.
in the public. Yeah, right.
And the other place you can get in trouble, and we've seen this accidentally, I don't think it's been malicious, but sometimes with email. If an email's going out, and it can come out from the town, it could come out from the chair, it could come out from anybody, and everybody is not blind copied, and then somebody hits reply to all, and then somebody hits reply to that, that's a beating, and we can't be doing that. So on other committees that I'm on and that I chair, I do like to send emails out and just say, hey, we got a couple of cases coming up, please be sure to do your homework, and then this and this and this, whatever. Never giving direction, but just informational emails. I always have to do it blind CC to everybody else. So I send it to myself and then blind CC everybody else. And that way nobody can accidentally respond and then boom, send it out.
Have you seen an RSA that says that blind CC is okay? I haven't.
That
No.
what?
Blind CC is okay.
It is if you're not, I mean, if you're just basic disseminating, basic information, you're not sending something out that says, hey, I really think you should vote this way at the meeting, that would be wrong. if the chair says, you know,
I mean,
hey, you guys should look at this information, don't forget we have a meeting next week, that's not a,
That's fine.
Informational is, obviously, there's got to be a way to communicate.
Asking for dates is okay, asking for meeting dates and reschedule is okay, and letting people know there's a huge storm and I don't think it's gonna be safe, I'm gonna go ahead and cancel. But it's very, very limited.
But you don't have discussion.
No.
so we do ask most of our committees that those run through myself and or Elisa, and that it's just an extra filter. If it's like, yeah, this really shouldn't go out, then we can be that little, hey, slow down.
When in doubt, don't do it, I guess is the bottom line.
So the quorum is more than 5 because you have 2 people missing tonight. And you have, 9 here, so there's 11.
Oh, but some of
No,
those are
I'm saying the
members
quorum
last,
of
last.
5, Jane, I'm sorry. Normally
Last
we're a
year,
group of
yeah.
9. So if you get 5, you have
Jean is
No.
previous committee member, not.
She's not on.
yeah, and John's actually not,
Right.
John's sitting until so we haven't
John
But you're-
technically is.
John
He is a
technically
voting
is.
member.
He is a
He's
voting
the
member.
select
That's
board
why he
chair
met.
until they appoint a new one.
So
I'm
that
sorry, my
quorum's
mistake.
on.
Welcome, sorry.
Thank you. I never
John's a-
know whether I exist or not.
Oh, you do.
So if 2 are missing, we have 10.
Yeah.
So we have 10. It's still a quorum of 5.
Yeah.
I thought quorum meant majority. That's not.
No, it's different than a majority.
So I'm not still sure where you're getting 10, I want to be sure I'm.
Oh, I'm just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we're missing 2.
Okay,
Kristen and Nancy.
so how are we 10?
But
Usually 9.
previous counts, I've ended up on.
I think in the past, we had one person short type thing.
Yeah, sometimes we haven't had a full
We've had,
committee.
we've had votes of 9 to 1.
Yes, or 10 to 1.
You
With
remember,
the select board rep at
We
10.
could potentially have a vote that's 5-5.
Good.
Wow.
And that's a failed vote.
Those fails.
It's not a, oh, we're tied, it's a
Right.
fail.
Those are fails.
Oh, good, thank you. And anything else that you sent out that you're like, yeah, this is really important, we should be sure that we're covering this, 91A or anything like that?
I have a little overview to go through when
Please.
you're ready. but-
Yeah, no, go.
So you covered most of 91A. The other stuff was really kind of administrative, which is ours, which is, actually, I'm just gonna go through this in order. I'll get to 91A, but kind of just went through some of this stuff and just really looking, and I put together kind of what I would say is a town manager overview of the budget season. Simply put, high level, the budget committee's role is to ensure the budget is transparent, well understood, and reflects the priorities of the community while operating fully in the public eye. So the job is to prepare and recommend the budget to the voters. It is considered advisory because the voters are the ones that decide what the budget is. What we'll do, you review department requests and financial data, so those that have not been on the budget committee, around the August timeframe, I usually start with my department heads putting together a budget, ask them to prepare their budget, we review it together, usually cut quite a bit and tell them to do some other stuff. We push things together and then it comes to the budget committee from me as the proposed budget, and then we'll go through, and I think we really need to discuss this year how we're gonna go through that presentation process, but we give a presentation to the select board for each or the budget committee for each department, and then that's the time to discuss, I'm gonna say each and every line item, but really philosophically where you at, why is this so much, all of those items, and then we can move to kind of a more refined budget and start finishing up the budget process. We do need to work collaboratively, so the select board, budget committee, myself, and department heads I consider us all a team to try to get this project done. And so we need to work together on those, trying to put forward the best budget we can. We do ask, and the budget committee has some of the strongest rules, that you attend meetings regularly, you don't miss meetings. If you need to miss meetings, let me and or Dan know, so we can mark you excused, because technically I think if you miss 3 meetings unexcused, then you're removed from the budget committee. So let's just keep those lines of communication open and try to attend if at all possible. Maintain professionalism and public trust, treating each other with respect, and we can disagree, but debating and treating each other with respect actually builds trust through the process. And then with that, it's, you know, the budget committee should take a big picture view. I think Dave kind of mentioned it, looking at that big picture view, trends from past years, what are we trying to accomplish with this budget? Those are the things we really should look at. Not to say you can't question every line item, like I said, if there's something that just seems out of whack, it's good, but I've seen budget committees get in a tailspin when they get, you know, looking at should we have $100 or $200 for toilet paper. It's not a really good use of time. And I use that because I sat in a in a really big city, and that was a 3-hour discussion.
Was it during COVID?
No. 10 years before COVID. But they had over a $50 million budget, and they were arguing over hundreds of dollars of toilet paper. And so let's not do that. You know, and then we, you know, questions in here like, what problem is this funding trying to solve? Is this the best use of taxpayer dollars? Those are the things we really should be talking about. After that, we really get down to 91A. We covered most of that, like I said. I think that's pretty much it. I had a little closing that, you know, at the end of the day, our role is to step back and look at the full picture. We're here to develop a deep understanding of the budget and the services that it supports, the priorities of the community, and I do think we need to do a better job this year of getting together a little earlier with the select board to set those priorities. The budget we've put forward is a bottom line financial plan, like I said, with recommended allocations. It's not a procedure or script. I think that's important to know. We do go through the line items of where the money should be spent, but at the end of the day, it's that bottom big number that's getting pushed forward, and then life happens and things gets all moved around. But we try to keep it very close because that's kind of what we've told everybody we really want to do. Skipping down a little bit, yeah. I think it's really important to understand that each of us bring different perspectives to this table, and the diversity is what makes us a strong board. Looking at things differently, our responsibility is to move beyond individual agendas and focus on what's best for the entire community, balancing fiscal responsibility with the services that our residents rely on. We stay focused on the big picture and grounded in facts, respectful to each other, and mindful of the full scope of the town's needs. We will build a budget that reflects shared responsibility and earns the trust of the public.
Good, well said, thank you. You said one word that I like especially a couple of times there was respect. We're going to disagree as a committee, and it doesn't matter who or when, but that's okay, as long as we do it respectfully, which is not, I'm right and you're wrong, it's more, let me hear your point of view, and I hope you'll take the opportunity to listen to mine. I have a very good friend, and he's famous for saying, God gave us 2 of these and 1 of these for a reason. Let's try and keep that in mind. We also, you run the risk sometimes of one person talking a lot, and we want to keep this very balanced. Every single person on this committee, all 10 of us, have equal weight. My opinion is no more important than anybody else's, and nobody else's opinion is more important than everybody else's. So we need to keep that in mind. The same comes with the town. We had some times last year where things got a little tense. The town deserves our respect as well, and I'm not saying it crossed any lines, but there were times when it got close. They're busting their butts. There's 2 of them in that office that are doing all the work, and now a third, but they're busy, so you guys have the right, if ever you think that somebody is pushing it too much, to raise your hand, and we'll visit that. The same with the public. Sometimes the public can be brash. We do not have to allow the public to speak to us in a way that's disrespectful, and we'll call them on that. By the same token, we owe the public our respect. And if somebody says something we don't like, that doesn't mean we can lambaste them. We need to treat them with respect as well. And that's a big word in my household, and it's a big word in the way I try to live my life. And if we're crossing lines, I am not afraid to, in a respectful way, pull somebody aside and say, hey, we might want to take a look at that. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Good. Any other thoughts on that before we move on? Anything? Okay. Approval of minutes. So these minutes go back a bit. If you weren't here and you want to abstain, that is perfectly acceptable. If you were here on January 20th, we had a combined meeting of the Select Board and the Budget Committee. And what you see in front of you, which was in its packet, are the minutes from that meeting. And I will accept a motion on the minutes.
I think it's also important to say if you weren't here, you can still vote. You don't have to
Yes.
abstain. You just listen to the discussion, look at how the minutes are written, and if the people that were here don't think they're wrong and you say, yeah, I think they're written well, you can vote yes. So.
Thank you.
Move to approve as
Do I have a
provided.
second? I will make a second. Discussion?
Dan, when appropriate, I'd like to bring up a typo and just have that noted.
You can bring that up right now.
Okay, line 69. I think it's supposed to be town-owned, not
Owned.
Yeah.
town-owed.
You said 59?
69?
69.
Got it?
Yeah, you got it, Ed? Okay.
Thank you. Other discussion, typos, changes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Minutes passed. All right. So let's take some time and talk a little bit about 2025 and the process. Let's talk about what went really well, what went not so well, and things that you really feel passionate that we should address and maybe change. And let's leave it at that. Start wherever you want, the good, the bad, or the indifferent.
I was impressed with how well the committee worked together. So I was on an early committee quite a few years ago, budget, and it was so bad, I swore I'd never go to another budget committee. And there was just, people arguing over pennies practically, and very passionately. And then the more than once, the chair of that committee went down and yelled at the town manager in his office, and that was when we were in the basement of Whitney Hall, and everyone could hear everything. And so that's as far as I'm going with that, but the sort of good behavior, I guess, is so pleasant, you know, and people working together, I think that's great. And the fact that we were not obsessed with, can we find $1 here or $1 there? We're really looking at the big picture. And I think that's so important. And, you know, I have this tendency once in a while in the middle of the budget process saying, now, let's keep in mind, you know, we can't go always for the low-hanging fruit. And low-hanging fruit is very often employee salaries. If we do that, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. So I thought it was a very productive year and one that didn't wear me out.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I would like to see the calendar move back, so start a little sooner, because I felt at the very end it was jammed up.
Oh, yeah.
So we didn't have adequate time to ask questions and pursue information before we made decisions. And I know that changes when you have to get stuff from the department heads, but I felt like one of the reasons that bond didn't pass was how we voted. Because we went into it cold at a meeting, we had no chance to meet again. It had to be done. And I feel like the town missed a big opportunity there. And I feel like I'd rather start a little earlier, not a month or two or whatever, because then your numbers aren't as easy to read and predict. And I get that, but so that if you need another meeting, because that time of year, December, I'm pretty well booked with things, and so you never find a good meeting date. So getting the calendar out like we have is, to me, important, because then I book around it.
Yeah.
But if you wait too long, I can't.
Yeah.
And I meet, for instance, once a month as treasurer with a church council, and if you pick that night, I'm in a bind.
So even if you just have placeholders, get stuff out there.
Well,
that
you
says
can always
this-
cancel a meeting, but it's much
Yeah.
harder to add them.
Yeah.
I think one thing that happened to us this year was SB2. We weren't ready for it because we'd never gone through that schedule, and it's a rigorous, ferocious, march fast kind of schedule. And I'm not making excuses for us, it took us by surprise.
And things happen sooner.
Yes, things happen
So-
sooner.
Well, and I would say with the default budget, there was just a lot of little weird changes as we navigated through how it should be, and this year should be a lot simpler. 'Cause
Yeah.
We know the rules a little bit better, and it should be a lot quicker to go, here it is. That's,
Yeah, yeah.
So-
I agree with everything Jane said, but one thing in particular was, it seemed as we got later in the year, we were then at the end of a meeting saying, okay, when's the next meeting? As opposed to saying at some point, okay, we're going every second and fourth, so October, November, and December, that means let's get these on the calendar and just
And if
put them
we
in.
need an extra one, we can do it.
Yeah, we throw another one in there if we had to. And yeah, I think that's fair, yeah.
Dimitri posed a number of concerns in an email that I received.
He did.
And I presume all of you did too, or the people at least on the budget committee at the time. Accuracy was a big one. And we came across a few issues that I think may have been in part because of the rush. And I think the other thing in terms of that email that I saw was just the overload of work that we put on his shoulders. And I think that's a mistake.
I would say Dave just brought up a really good, he just gave you an example of how you violate public meeting law right now, because Dimitri emailed to everyone. And you just responded to it, said, well, you brought it into public, that email wasn't public, right? And so that's something that you would not want to repeat this coming year. Because his email, he should have come and said those grievances in public, to the public in a public meeting, and that was a really good example of what you shouldn't do.
Good point.
So Dave, let me ask you about your opinion on accuracy. What do you think was inaccurate and could have improved last year?
Well, the primary place that I found was a couple of the items when I was comparing the major differences, or several $1,000 differences between the default budget and the proposed budget. And a couple of those were just sort of, I think were just basically line shift, but they didn't make sense in terms of doing that. if I can mention Dimitri again without being problematic, maybe I should, without his name, there was concern by a member of this committee that that he had found $2 million worth of errors. That's really worrisome. I don't know if it's true, but that was the assertion.
So let's try to keep this generic. What I don't want to do is I don't want to say, Ed, tell us about this, this, and this, and this. But I think what I'm hearing you say is that you would enjoy numbers that have been verified and do not change when they have been presented, or if they do change, you know why they're changing. You lost confidence in the accuracy of some of the numbers, right?
Yes, you said it better than me, than I could. Yeah, I think you're right.
You don't need to get out each time that came up, but I'll be honest, I did hear that from a number of members, and there was frustration with that. And where the truth lies, let's leave that for now, but
No, I would say there were some mistakes made, and our staff was drowning. We were upside down in finance from a few years of, or a couple years of really bad stuff. And I mean, with some of the late materials coming out, budget was a lot of times, oh my gosh, there's a budget meeting in a couple days, let's get this done. And so, not gonna say we're doing wonderful now, but we've caught up on a lot of the back stuff. It's still too much for the little bit of staff that we have, but we'll do a lot better this year.
Maybe it was just a, go ahead.
Dan, I have probably lots of thoughts here that I'll just kind of throw out. So things that I made a list of. And then I also just want to comment, because sometimes as people say, I don't have any money in this anymore, but anyways, I do. Jane mentioned starting the calendar early. I definitely think that's a huge thing. And I know, she said, can't do too early, the numbers. But honestly, I'm pretty sure that most department heads have some sense of a preliminary budget for this next year. They kind of have some thoughts of things that they're gonna need, not need, that sort of thing. I mean, not final numbers, obviously. And then John's comment, it sort of bothers me. I have to say this. You know me, say what I say. The SB2, I mean, we knew way ahead of time. We knew a year ahead that we had SB2. So once SB2 passed, we should have had boots on the ground and had some sort of plan in place to say this, and this has got to happen going forward. I think we can't always keep having these excuses of why we didn't do something. We need to find a good resolution to it. And I think some of the things that came to my mind when I was thinking about, how can we do things differently or better? For me, after working in school districts for almost 23 years, when I worked with directors, we had to have supporting documentation for every expense and every increase and every decrease of why. And for me, I would think it would be good, and I'm not looking for I'm not gonna be here, but this big long list, like a high overview from department heads of lists of increases and decreases, rather than them coming here and verbally saying all this stuff, and then you go, oh, I don't know, what was that decrease in DPW, or what was gonna be that big increase? I think documentation, supporting documentation should be a primary goal for things.
Gene, what would that documentation look like? So a department head comes in and says,
Maybe even just like a list of what are the increases going to be and why. It doesn't have to be a big long story for each one.
Yeah.
Okay, DPW has to buy a new 10-wheel dump truck, and this is a replacement, or this is a new equipment that's needed, period. I mean, it doesn't have to, I wouldn't think it would have to be a big, long, drawn-out story to each
Hey
thing.
Dan,
And it wouldn't have to-
we do a lot of that, and I think documenting it better in the comments is something we've been trying to do, and we'll just push that harder this year. That
And it
The
wouldn't need to
information's
be
there orally, but it's not usually,
for all the minor differences.
some of it is, but
It
we've
would be
been
for,
through it
for,
so
you know,
fast.
significant differences. You
Yeah.
have to decide what that would be.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So what Ed just described, would that meet the needs in your mind? If the department heads came in, because when you say have supporting documents, I'm picturing like a stack of
No,
paper.
no.
But you're just saying in the comment section, be more detailed as to what's going up, what's going down, and why.
Yeah, I think so. I just feel like there needs to be more, I just call it supporting documentation, because that's what we always had to do when.
Yeah, I'm not dismissing it, I'm just
Yeah,
trying to
no,
understand.
yeah.
Let me talk to them, because what I did the year before was,
Yes.
I had a little more time, and I highlighted each of those lines and pulled them over and wrote comments of
Yeah.
why we had a variance that was noticeable, is what I'll call it. We can pick out a number if we want, but it's like, I don't like to pick out a number, because sometimes it's a small change, but this is a big change to understand, so I think we should talk about it. But we highlighted the changes and we focused on those a little bit more. So I think we can look at those, we can pull them out into a separate document really easily, and then it's easy for people to see them, understand them, and
A really good one
I got
that
that.
Jean, I'm sure you worked with and I have in the school district, and we have it here, is the energy line. So electricity, any gas and propane, those are ones that all organizations have. And even if it's not it's nice to see that we're gonna estimate like similar usage, and we know that prices are going up, and we're gonna try to take, right now with what's going on in the Middle East, right? So that's a great example of a line that I used to see documented all the time in the school district. That would be a good one
Yeah.
for here. So that when voters ask, why do we put an extra 10,000 on it? We're like, well, we're a little bit nervous. On the same side, like if you did some major energy improvements, you go down, you should have that major energy improvement expectation.
Some of the other things, like, this has just been a stickler for me, like not just this past year, for quite some time, about receiving materials at least 2 days ahead of time, not the day of the meeting. That's not fair to all the budget committee members. There's no way you can inhale, digest, and put together your thoughts and overviews of. I just feel like if the stuff is not going to land to you until the day of the meeting, then move the meeting, because it's just, it's not right. That's how I
So the
feel
next
about it.
line item on the agenda is the 2026 budget process, and as a sub-item, I have listed standards and expectations. And I think we should come to some agreement on what are our expectations from the town, and what is the town's expectations from us, and how do we work together to
Right.
make sure that
as I
we're
said,
getting
we can talk about that there. But my plan right now, if we're having Thursday meeting, is to have everything out by Monday at the latest.
That'd be wonderful, because I'm slow.
The other thing I think, and this sort of ties to supporting documentation, and I know it was asked for in the past, is call data from fire, PD, and ambulance to support or not support expenses, increases, decreases, that sort of thing, so you can sort of correlate like what's going on. So I'll just give an example for that kind of caught my eye, sort of at the end of this whole budget thing, and after town meeting went by, and I'm looking at the annual report and look at the PD data and the number of activities, calls, whatever they're gonna call them, look like, it appears, it keeps going down and down. So then I say to myself, okay, so does that support having to have the number of officers and staff that we have? It doesn't seem to kind of go together. So that's just kind of a thought I'm throwing out there. And I think, the other thing is to make sure that any data, numbers, finances, or whatever we're looking at, that information is coming from current documentation, wherever it may be, not old data, or old information.
So you want to see the source on the numbers that we are.
Right, yeah. And I think just back to the, information that we were given about, and certainly if I had known that when I was here the last 2 years, I would have been more than happy to do that. to share the burden across the committee and not just have the chair necessarily doing every single thing. I think there's got to be tasks and projects and things that can be distributed among people that, like you said, everyone has different strengths and different skills, and it doesn't appear that it should all land in one corner.
It's not my judiciary.
Yeah. So,
We're not doing it.
you know, I think that's just some of my thoughts, but I think for me, I know for myself, the thing about getting the materials ahead of time is so critical to be able to digest all of that, because there's no way you can comprehend all of that in 10 minutes and go to a meeting.
Yeah, no, I think everybody's in agreement on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the town gets that.
Yeah.
I keep referring to you as the town, but.
Yeah. I think we got it last year, we just had trouble making it happen.
Yeah. Good, others, any other thoughts of last year? I thought it went well for the most part. It got kind of ugly for a while there. But I think, I agree, the quality of people we had around the table kind of held us together. I also agree with the comment that you can't have one person doing all the work. It just doesn't work that way, and it's not a good use of valuable resources. So, but I think everything that has been brought up so far, they're all valid points. I know you guys are new, but any observations from having watched last year from a public viewing point of view, or in previous years perhaps things that didn't go well, and you think, I don't want to do that again?
Yeah, no, and I think, you know, like what Ed suggests, when departments come in, and Jean said, that if we can have it so like things are highlighted, so the department head is not going, okay, well, I'm gonna be $30 down on this because of blah, blah, and I'm gonna be 400 over on this because of blah, blah. So it's, you know, like Ed said, if it's right there for us to see, and the department head gives the overview of his budget, her budget, and, you know, this is the big ask, I've got, this is where we're cutting back, this is, but like the nitty gritty to see, you know, okay, well, as a department head, I've looked at every line, and this is where I've cut or added, and this is why. So, I mean, I think that, you know, just speeds things up. And back to like the beginning with you said with respect, you know, and hearing everybody out. And we are gonna have, you know, disagreements, and we're gonna have, I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, we're all looking the best interest of the taxpayers of Enfield.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, we can do it in a civil manner, and, you know, and I think that comes out with the best product.
Yeah, okay. Yes, sure.
I just wanted to say, well, maybe it was because at times it was tense, but I have the feeling that there were a lot of conversations going on out of the meeting between budget committee members that really shouldn't happen too, about discussion issues. And the whole budget committee wasn't a part of that. And when you got to the meeting, you got bits and pieces of it. And that wasn't good. That wasn't good. It's the first, I've never seen, in my years on it, I haven't seen a committee that acted in that way.
So I was not on the budget committee last year, but I got pulled in at the 11th hour and things did get tense. And you guys may or may not know it, but you had a big mess in your spreadsheet, and it had to do with how it was handled. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that it was handled pretty privately, right? Yeah. And so what I would say to you is that in each meeting, you should be endeavoring to work in public, right? Right to Know really does afford our public the right to see you do work. And I would discourage you from doing work outside of public as often as possible. Do it in public. I know sometimes work sessions are important, but agree on your public process together as a large group before you go and anoint anybody to do something. I think that's really important. Acknowledge each member. I think sometimes it's easy in the discussion because it's kind of informal in this setting, but when you come to the end of a department presentation, I would suggest that you have a very specific time in your agenda that is discussion, and it is a sub-bullet point say, in which you go around the table, and I would encourage you, you don't have to go in order, but the easiest thing to do is to go in order, because I usually as chair skip myself, right, got everybody to speak last. But I would say, because then when you come to the end and someone says, hey, we never had a discussion, fair, when you're not getting documents on time, I'm going to make the assumption you're going to time. So I would say, come prepared to discuss, and then come prepared to say, we tentatively agree on this. And you're not saying it's set in stone, but be willing to look back. So skip the semi-private pullouts, though. That's what really got you in trouble last year as a committee. I came in, I looked at the spreadsheet, and I was like, whoa, like these formulas don't match, like the things don't. I'm very technical in Excel, and so what I thought were basic uses in Excel, I'm going to describe it as, you have 3 tables side by side, they should be embedded. If you use Excel a lot, you know what it means. Things like sorting. So coming to the town manager at the 11th hour and asking, hey, I need you to do 2 days worth of work, and I want it before 8 a.m. tomorrow. I sat in on that, helped do it with Eric, because Eric's very technical. We figured out what went wrong. I went line by line. I did the variances, and then I did weird anomalies, like, why is this $9, right? Because $9 is kind of a weird thing to have a line for. So, right, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. It means, like, you just might ask the question. We did some of the justifications. You guys saw the justification worksheet, I think, putting it in the notes. But doing that work in public before it gets to the point where people are nervous and they're starting to lose confidence, and then really not focusing on this aggregate errors idea, because I'm going to tell you, nobody ever subtracted from the town. They just kept saying, oh, it's $1 million more, it's another 100,000. But nobody on this committee ever acknowledged that some of those errors came from committee members. And I don't want to, it's not worth it, right? Like, oh, we found 10,000. Because to me, as a collaborative team, right, the value of working as a team is to build consensus and to check each other, because gosh, we are human. And sometimes the phone rings and you forget a line, because that's the danger of using a very manual process. We are still going to be, I would say, in a mostly manual process for most of this season. Our software is less than ideal. And so just making sure that you give people some grace and say to Ed, like, I found this and I'm not sure, maybe it is supposed to be, 100,000 and it is Crystal Lake's going to get 2 grants, or maybe we say, oh, hey, the budget committee pulled over revenue for Crystal Lake grant, and we know we can't get it twice, right, for the watershed management grant. So that's something that the budget committee just got 11th hour, they passed it on, and I was like, we can't send that on to the state, right? They're gonna come back and whack us if you put a grant on that you can't possibly get twice. So some of those things happened because it was so compressed at the end. I think just really having that collaborative, and then not driving down edicts to the town office. So as a select board member, right, like, we work as a team. So if you come and you say to us, hey, we have a problem, which, I think at the end of the year, we acknowledged that we had a staffing issue in terms of an amount of time, and we had the fraud, which everyone knows about. I think we've been very public and transparent about how it happened and why. But if you've ever worked in an atmosphere where you had to fix something, you're building the plane while you're flying it. I don't recommend that situation, but that's where we were. So getting out of that, I hope we're out of it mostly. Yeah. I feel like at town meeting, we as a town contributed a significant sum of money to fund having some outside help come in. Scott from MRI has been doing some work, doing some internal controls work. The select board has done policy. But if you need this substantial body of work from the town manager, you should like an excessive amount of work, right? You should be asking the select board, and not simply going and being like, hey, I need these 30,000 documents. Now, if you need a normal request, right, like, have at it. But I think some of the stuff that came in the 11th hour last year that I ended up looking at, I was like, and finally I said, you asked your questions wrong, and at 7:30 at night, I'm not doing it, right? Because you don't ask me for something at 7:30 at night after I've already done it once, and it's your mistake. Yeah. So I think, some just have a little grace and a little forward planning. I think the decompression of the timeline. And then Dan and I talked about identifying what you should expect to be able to reasonably solidify early on in the process, and what you aren't going to have until like at the end of December. And normally I would love to say an energy bill is one you could predict, This year, I think you have two things happening. You have new buildings, and I don't know what's going on over the ocean, but it's not good. And so I think that's one that in a normal year, I would be happy to like say you try to predict it. This year, you might flag it. And so set some standard expectations as a committee about what you think should come in. I'll give you an example. In the police department, they found the drone. They found that they wanted a drone after the budget process. You told them, you can't add it now, right?
Well, Roy did.
Roy did. Roy told them.
It didn't make it.
It didn't make it to you guys.
Anyway.
But those are things that, there are things that don't make it, and I think that's reasonable. But be open to the idea that if they found like the world's best possibility, they should also be able to bring it to you, because I like you guys to get value for your money.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, but a big part of the problem last year was that building the plane as you're trying to fly it, and it got crazy in the end.
It was.
And what happened was it turned into survival mode.
Ugh.
And in survival mode, you know how it goes. And that, I think, led to some of the conversations taking place outside of here.
Right, and we should all be part of the
Some
discussion.
individual working, 20 hours a day on this, and then trying to do his regular job, 6 hours a day, it's only 24 hours.
Yeah.
So it got a little crazy.
It did.
It did.
We should be all part of the discussion, just as the public should be a part, know what our discussion is.
Yes, and if everything lands jelly side up this year, and we have a good timeline, they will. They will. Everybody, in my eyes, this is going to be smooth as silk.
Promise.
No.
I'd like to clarify one thing and then ask a question. So I didn't feel until we were right at the end in crunch time that the committee was at odds, or I felt like we had differing opinions, but we were honoring the process and plodding through it.
I agree.
So I feel like the beginning part of this discussion, I was getting the impression, oh, everybody's going to think we had a very uncomfortable year as a budget committee. I don't think that was true. It was that tail end piece.
Yes, I agree.
And what was happening, and the fraud certainly did not help it. We knew that. And then my question is, we're buying that new software, and I thought it was going to come on board like about now.
It's supposed to be on board by May. They're working really hard now.
Okay.
So we can talk about that as we go through the process. I think we need to plan that that's coming on board, and when it does, I'll have them come here too and show the budget process and software. But I don't think we rely on that, because if there's a hiccup in that, we need to be ready to go.
You gotta beta test it first.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, we're gonna fly that plane.
We'll fly that plane. Oh, yay.
Hey, let's, anybody else have any points on that, Jim? Anything? Everybody good? Okay, let's move on then to standards and expectations. So I'd like to start, if you don't mind, that standards and expectations of board members. I think we want these numbers, but a standard we have to hold each other accountable to is that we do our homework. We don't walk into this meeting not being prepared, especially if we get the numbers on a Monday. We get the numbers day of the meeting, we have the right to cancel the meeting and say, no, I'm not going to do it. And if it's somewhere in between, we might have to scramble. But the expectation is we all do our homework walking in here. We're ready. We have our questions written out. We've thought about it. We're ready to engage. Are we all good with that? Everybody? Good? Okay. We talked about the respect, homework. We talked about the respect. And then people just help each other out, which I'm not thinking that we won't at all, but we all just help each other out. If somebody's, can't get something done, raise your hand and we get somebody else on it. Okay. Other things we should hold ourselves accountable to as a board? Or Ed, anything that you think the board should commit to you?
No, I think that's it. I think we develop a process and stick with the process. If we need to pivot, I think we pivot as a group and figure it out, but, I don't want to throw stones any more than we need to, but there was a few changes and spreadsheet changes and things that were happening throughout the process, and it just confused everything. So if we can come into this as, this is how we're going to do it, this is what you guys expect and this is what you can expect from us, then
Yeah, good.
we can get our work done.
Good. David?
I would say on an ongoing basis, in the spreadsheets that come to us, a comparison to what they would be under a default budget, and which should be fairly straightforward to come up with, you know, to be able to look at those, particularly for the major change, you know, any major changes that would be there.
Yeah, let's look at how that works and how the spreadsheet works. That was part of the problem last year, was trying to do that. We got to the point where we had to manually enter on 4 different spreadsheets to make something work. And you do that and you're going to make mistakes.
It was a major problem.
Is it fair to have a goal this year that will figure out a process so that we can do comparisons kind of live time as
I
opposed
think we
to?
need to look at it, and I also think this year you're gonna get a default budget, and that's gonna be the default budget. It's not gonna change.
I mean, the default budget is essentially set already.
Yeah. The only reason it changed during the process is we learned a few nuances in the rules that was like, okay, we didn't believe that was the way that worked, and.
Yeah,
Okay.
we need to look at the law again, just to make sure they haven't slid anything new in for us, because
They tested.
But they do that. I am gonna ask the software developers if they can, and I'm pretty sure they can, because I know how it works, that we can create a column that's the default budget, and then a column that's the regular budget. And then what they've showed us and what we can do is we can actually do multiple proposed budgets if we want. So if we want to say, hey, let's change these numbers and see what that looks like, we can do that. And so if we can do that, we should be able to create one that's a default. And
Anything else anybody would like to request of the town that they do on a regular basis or don't do?
You've implied a couple of times that somebody's stepping in and doing some of the CFO duties for the proposed position. Where does that stand in timing for having a actual person employed by the town rather than as a consultant?
we're working through the process. We got one pool of applicants, went through them. We had 2 interviews out of that pool of applicants with the committee, and we decided as a committee that none of them fit the standards that we wanted. So right now we're back out trying to get more applicants. So it's a common practice. It's part of the reason we pushed the hiring forward, because most of the towns across the state in the last year that have done it have been getting 3 to 6 applications, and of those they're not great, and they've been getting 1 person. We did end up getting 13 applications by pushing pretty hard, but of those, like 6 of them were interviewable, and of those we didn't really like any. 3 of them did back out of the process mid-interviews, so we're going back out. We want to make sure we get the right person, not just a person.
Thank you.
Did it
You
come
say
from a
there's a
wide
lot of
area?
competition for people with those skills?
There is, yeah, in corporate world and everything, and then there's really almost nobody for municipal finance, but
Did applications come from a wide area, or were they?
they did. I think our farthest one was Alaska. So,
Well, one of the guys that we interviewed was from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And we did a Zoom with him. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's stick with the 2026 budget process. One of the things I'd love to see more this year is training. What I've seen in my first 2 years on the budget committee is that it seemed like it was this meeting, the very first meeting, you kind of sit down and then somebody's presenting to you. Training was limited. There was packet that went out, and there was a lot of self-responsibility for training, and I ended up doing the NHMA training, but I think training's always useful no matter how long you've been on a particular committee. Things change. So I did ask Ed if there would be opportunity to do something, and he looked into NHMA, which is New Hampshire Municipal Association, and they have an opportunity to bring somebody in live or to bring somebody in virtually, and virtual's less expensive, and there's also some other advantages to it. So what would folks think about the next meeting? We make a training meeting where NHMA comes in and talks municipal budgeting process, maybe 201, not 101, but 201. And they spend a couple of hours going through, here's what the process is, here's what it looks like, here's where towns go wrong, here's where things can go right.
They also have a group workshop that I think is both live in Concord or on Zoom that I did at least once, maybe twice.
And Shirley and I did that last year,
Yeah,
like with
I've
Joe.
gone over the years, I think I've done it 3 times.
Chris.
Because like you say, it's good to review.
Yeah, it's great.
And there are changes in law in
Yeah.
that.
So what do folks think about bringing a virtual New Hampshire Municipal Association? We open up to the public, anybody would be welcome. It would be an official meeting, but we wouldn't be talking town business, we'd be sitting through that.
Good.
It's about a 2-hour training.
About a 2-hour training, yep. Good.
And you have funds for it.
At some point in a future meeting, in addition to that, I'll bring in a list of other training opportunities. Like I said, last year, Shirley and I, Shirley did hers virtually. I went up to Littleton along with Chris Ellen. And it was a long day, but it was good. After 3 o'clock, all I heard was blah, blah, blah. But
I will say on the application, NHMA wants 3 dates.
okay.
So do we want to just go the next 3 meetings, or do you want to try 3 meetings in April, or?
Why don't we start with the 9th, and then give them 2 others, which were the next 2 meetings. If we had to rearrange things, maybe we could.
As I say, if we can shoot, I won't be here that 3rd week, I guess. It'd be nice to be in the training, but I don't have to be. So I can either do those 3, or I can skip that week and go to the 4th week of April and just give them 3 Thursday dates.
Would you guys want to do that, 3 Thursday dates? And if they say no, then we rearrange. And the priority, the preferred date being the 9th, which would be 2 weeks from today.
I've got
The
another
9th, I already have an
event for
obligation.
On the
Yeah, I
9th.
have a commitment.
next
that night.
month.
Oh,
What's the
that's the first
second?
Thursday, right?
What's the second Thursday?
No, that's actually another commitment.
What's the
Not,
second?
not normally having budget committee in April.
Right, that's the thing. I have a plan for it.
Okay,
I've been
Yeah,
using
I
my
got it.
Thursdays for other things.
I got it. All right, so instead of the 9th, it'd be the 16th?
I'll be in Tampa.
Anybody else trouble with the 16th?
I'll see my other one.
Okay. 23rd?
That's good for me.
Say, I'll be gone, but you guys can do it, and I can have someone here to make sure it works.
Okay. Perfect.
It'd be the same thing that I've had for the dental.
If you don't have a volunteer.
Thanks,
you
Lauren.
don't.
Yeah,
Okay. 30th?
Yeah.
Okay.
but there's only, it wouldn't be the 16th and the 23rd, it would be one.
No, it's gonna be
Correct.
one day.
Correct.
Right.
And going back to the 9th, how many people weren't good for the 9th? Jane
I'm not.
and Shirley weren't good?
How many weren't?
We're
Oh,
not good?
I'm not.
Okay, so let's not do the 9th. Then if you want to give them 16th, 23rd, 30th.
In that order?
I'd rather have, actually, if it came back to it, I'd rather have the 9th than the 16th. The 16th, I definitely
But
have.
Jane's not available on the 9th.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Did you have a problem with the 23rd, everybody?
23rd's good for me.
Well, and if somebody misses it, I'm sure they will be having a budget workshop.
Can
They
we,
do, in fact, I
It'll
think
be
I've
closer to
signed up
budget
for one, I'm
season.
trying to figure out when it is.
Wasn't this
Yeah.
week?
can we get a recording of what they do for us that we paid money for?
Yeah, we
No.
should be able to record it. Like I told you, I'll double check that because they do charge for them. They may not want you to record it.
Yeah, because the only thing on the 23rd, I have my 3rd grandbaby due on the 24th, and I'm responsible for watching the other 2, so.
That sounds
That's
like
a good
a-
excuse.
like a Trump set.
Exactly.
Okay. So the other training I was interested in doing, and tell me if you guys think this would make sense. So think of NHMA as almost like they set our foundation. And then I would love to, from a town point of view, bring in somebody, maybe it's Dan Kiley or somebody else, to talk about what is CIP? How does CIP fit into our budget? What is TIF? What are the trust funds? What's the undesignated fund balance? And what I want to do, it's not, we shouldn't be thinking of the 2027 budget as that's our only role. Our role is looking at how the 2027 budget fits into the larger picture of what's the strategic plan ultimately for the town and where are we going as a town? So you're not just a bricklayer, you're actually building a cathedral, if you've heard that expression. So what would people think about bringing somebody, I throw Dan Kiley out, I hadn't even mentioned it to him yet, but somebody like that kind of walk through all those other aspects? Useful?
I thought he was leaving town.
Yeah, we'll get him for you.
John Kyle would be great for the trust funds.
Okay, there could be several people I could get input from everybody on different folks, but does that make sense? Okay, so we'll look at that, and then the last thing was, we always get together with the select board and get some thinking of the select board for, we don't want to be cutting services, we want to stay in line with inflation, et cetera, and it's always good direction, but I'd love to get a joint meeting together of the select board and the budget committee to hear a little bit more of their thinking of what do the next 7 years look like? What are the infrastructure needs? What are the capital needs? Because we can deliver a budget that reduces taxes, right? That's not a problem. We could start cutting left and right, but that's not going to be good for us long term. So what is long term? What does that look like, and how does that fit in? And I'd also like to look at what are our historic trends when it relates to spending, or relates to revenue, not look at just single points in time, but look at trends that have happened. What are the state numbers usually like? What are the school numbers usually like? So that we really, when we're going into this, and Jim is in front of us talking about DPW, we're not just hearing about how many shovels he needs, but we're thinking bigger picture. Is that a good use of our time? And if you say, no, Dan, that's the stupidest idea ever, I have a thick skin.
I think it's a substantial body of work, is what I would say. And I think, John, you can pipe in, but I feel like we need to do some select board strategy and goal setting, and we need to pick, as a group of 5, a time to do that. And that discussion has not been had yet, to even pick a time, right, in order to do the work as a select board. Because we've done multiple iterations of the strategic plan, but we need to go back and reevaluate and say to ourselves, like, hey, the world looks different now, and do we pivot? What do we keep? What do we throw out? And I think that is a pretty significant undertaking. And then pulling the other data, I assume, it will take a bit of time to pull it off.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too much time, but I think getting the training aspects out of the way right now are a really good idea. Let's get the NHMA done, let's talk TIF, let's talk CIP, let's make sure everybody understands the big picture.
Yeah.
I think getting that trend line data and those things would be really good going into budget season, so it's fresh. This is where we're at, this is where we go, we can start it in your packet. I think
The long-term view is tricky because it is such a moving target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's there are a lot of issues beyond our control. Even the state legislature, way beyond our control these days.
Yeah, we were gonna have some strategic talks this summer, so I think coming out of those would be a great time to have a
Right.
meeting or
Yeah.
two to talk strategic planning and where we're going, what do we wanna do.
So that's good feedback, thank you.
So I'm gonna just excuse myself, because I feel like now you guys have moved on where I don't have to be part of anymore.
But we appreciate you. Thank you.
I'll try to keep my eyes and ears open in the
We know you
background
will.
and
We know you
We'll
give my 2
expect you
cents when I
here.
think it's needed.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna do it now.
And tell your
Thanks,
husband to come talk to us about Oak Grove Street.
Oh, yeah.
No,
By us, I mean the select board.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
He is serious.
We're serious too.
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
I won't drive on that anymore.
I drive it all the time. You guys are just paying if I fall in.
So I hear you, that's good feedback, thank you. One thing I'd like you to take away is, we'd love to get inside the select board members' heads more. I know. Or maybe not. And hear what you're thinking, and if it's incomplete data, you saying, hey, we have incomplete data at this point, is important for us as well. And-
No, I think any information we can pass along, and sometimes even the way we feel about how things are going, not only in the town of Enfield, but how does this connect with the nation? How does this connect with I hate to say it, the world.
Yeah, it really. I think we are gonna have as a select board, I think this strategy conversation is gonna be a pretty rugged discussion, right? And I think everybody's willing to undertake it, but I don't wanna rush it.
Right.
And certainly goal setting and refining it so that, because for me, I like to, within the organization, ask myself when someone comes and they ask me to build a lollipop stand at the transfer station, right? I'm gonna pick something outrageous, that I say, does this meet our goals? Does this meet our strategy? Is this a priority? And of course, I feel like lollipop stand, I'd be like, wow, guys, it really doesn't fit anywhere. It's gonna cost us money, right? And so, but having it so that we can have it as a useful tool, not just to congratulate ourselves on having a strategy or goals, because some organizations do that and move on, but we have in the past done a good job of making use of our strategy and our goals and outlining a process. Sometimes it makes people who have fabulous ideas really sad, right? And that kind of hurts as a community member, but I think it's important to have it there so that we are really thinking and doing a really good job, because if we can't do that piece, then we don't have good information for you.
You got it.
So
We just
I'd like
had Wizard
to,
of Oz.
I'd like
I'm not picking
to,
on them.
circle back and just press in a little bit about timeline on that. So we're going into April, and you mentioned, I think, something about maybe having those strategy type meetings in the summer.
We have not discussed as a select board. I just mentioned summer for some of this work. I don't know. We'll have to have that
I think we're gonna need it
conversation.
before.
Well, I think
Well, I
it'll
don't
go
know.
into the summer and, but yeah, we're gonna have some meetings coming out of there and
Go ahead, Jill, I don't think you finished your thought.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that if we start to pull back that budget timeline to, let's say, I don't know, September, early September, late August, then needing to know, wanting to know what the strategic direction is would be appropriate if it was decided in the summer.
Yeah.
So that's just what I'm trying to pin down.
We might be able to get parts, like in the past, we've had a specific budget conversation about coming and saying something as basic as, maintain services and staffing, right? That's one we've given in the past as something, on a select board, I'm not gonna speak for this year, but I think we can definitely get components done earlier. But I think, and then we can communicate at what we've agreed to. I'm gonna push for a Saturday workshop, not because we don't do it in public, but because you really have to sit down, and I'm sorry, you guys, but the evening hours aren't really my best brain, right? Like, I've already maxed myself out doing work for my clients and chasing my human, and after a while, sometimes at 9 o'clock at night, now you go.
All right, so
I will say, when I said summer, I was thinking we'd be working on something and probably have a fairly finished product by midsummer, which would be a great time to have the next discussion, and then we'd be moving into budget.
we might need a two-step process, which is the skinny version, if you will, before summer. And then when the select board comes out of,
I don't think you're gonna need it till end of summer. You're not gonna get budget numbers till late August.
let's see how the schedule works out. Let's see how that works out.
I'm not gonna give it to my department heads till July, because they're not gonna have rational stuff. And it's gonna be,
That's true.
We need half a year under our belt.
So at a future meeting, we'll take a look at the calendar, we'll work our way backwards from December and figure out what numbers we're getting, when we're getting them, when.
yeah, the one thing I wanna talk about is our first 3 meetings last year, or maybe even 4, were maybe an hour long.
Yeah.
And I think we can compress those. We might even be able to do a Saturday meeting and get a ton of presentation stuff done, which will open the calendar to move forward. I think it'd be a lot better for the budget committee to do it that way than to push numbers forward and get, I'm gonna call them false numbers. They're just kind of guesses that are gonna change through the season. I think it's a lot better to get a strong budget and then work from that.
Yeah,
We used to do that, sometimes 2 Saturdays.
Yeah.
we'll sort through that. We'll sort through that for sure. All right, so one other thing I wanted to cover, and then with everybody else, if there's other things. So I'm a big believer in starting with the end in mind. So I'd like to see what is the deliverable from the budget committee at the end of December, and making sure that we have agreement on that and everybody's lined up with that. And I'd like to work our way backwards from December. And along those lines, we have to assume that we're not going to have a new IT system. There's one assumption. If that thing never gets off the ground, what would we do? What are the spreadsheets we're going to use? And have that conversation now rather than till the time we get towards crisis mode, and come to agreement between folks in the town and the budget committee, and have that all nailed down. In an effort to do that, as well as try to get more people involved in more things, I'd like to put up a team lead that handles expenses and a team lead that handles revenues. And this individual would be charged, and they would get some people working with them. They would be responsible for working with the town to say, okay, what are those spreadsheets? Let's get them nailed down. Let's make sure everybody's in agreement. Go in, sit down with you and Alicia and say, okay, what are we going to be working on? So it doesn't get to be August or September or whatever, and we're still trying to figure that out. If at some point when, hopefully, that IT system comes along, we've also thought through how is that going to integrate into those spreadsheets, how are those spreadsheets going to integrate into that. At some point, do we go all to the IT system? Or at some point, is it kind of a hybrid between the two? These are all very, very important questions. And I think getting ahead of that, as opposed to getting behind that, is going to be really important to our success. So what I have in mind is, based on the experience of Tina, having been a finance director before herself for a municipality, getting involved in the revenue space and really digging into that and getting some folks working with her, and getting Jill into the expense space and really digging into that and understanding that. They would also be responsible, them and people working with them would be responsible. When those numbers come out on Monday, they probably already had some conversations with you. When the numbers come out on Monday, they're going to attack them, and we're all going to review them, but they're really going to attack them and say, okay, are there any mistakes in here? Is there anything that is wrong in here? And then having communications with the town about those sorts of things. So I guess what I'm proposing to the budget committee is, does that make sense? And could you see the value in it?
So Dan, you individually went to people and asked them in advance of this meeting outside of the public forum if they were interested in doing this.
I had conversations with
Yep.
people about the concept, yeah.
Okay, so, and that's what I think you really have to have those conversations, the full conversation in public instead of going and deciding somebody should be a team lead, right? So you should be asking everybody, I'm thinking about dividing this up into revenue and this, who's interested in working on
So
these
Kate,
items?
they were very preliminary conversations, and I'm getting people's input into it just as I am now. There's been no decisions made. And I'm asking, right now, that's the question I asked, in fact, what do people think? And
Okay. So I'm looking at a document that you handed out with expense side lead and names and expense side lead and names, right?
Yeah.
Did you distribute that to Dave? Did you invite Dave to be on any of those?
I didn't invite Dave to be on those committees. Now, you see
Or
there's a
Jane or
question.
Shirley, right?
So you see there's a question mark under each of those.
Ooh.
And I'm not sure you can refer to any of us, more than four of us, without, for anything, or you're dealing with a quorum issue.
Well, and you could decide you wanted to create subcommittees and you could keep minutes, but you guys should decide as a team on that, and you should decide on who runs. And I'm no shortcoming, because I know you guys have specific talents, but I think these are the conversations that need to be had at the table.
And that's what we're doing right now. What am I not doing now?
No, the fact that I'm looking at the document that you gave out. So that was something that you didn't afford everybody a proposal in advance, right? You gave it to specific people.
So the way anything was presented was, this is stream of consciousness, and I want to get your input into this. Tell me what you think, and based on your experience, does this make good sense? Because it's clear that we needed to do something a little bit different. Yeah.
And I think those of us who have been on the committee before realize the dysfunction that we've had, and, you know, having some sort of proposal, whether I was part of the initial brainstorming about it or not, as long as we met the rules, it seems very appropriate that the individual consultation with a limited number of this committee is reasonable.
But is that reading the rules? We need
I
to
mean, it
be,
needs to be, the decision needs to come here.
but we didn't have any part of the discussion.
We haven't made a decision,
we're having
any
the
decision,
discussion
we're
now,
discussing
Shirley.
it now.
Those discussions should be now. That's what the agenda said. That those people, the things that you're proposing should be proposed here initially. And then whoever the talent is for those things can be decided. I feel like, it makes me feel distrustful, Dan.
I'm sorry,
Okay?
I'm sorry to hear that.
All right?
I'm sorry to hear that.
Because some people are in and know it, some people aren't. That's always gonna be a little bit so. But to me, when you wanna restructure, and I think you have some great ideas, you do it in committee.
So what you're suggesting is that we should have done the conceptual process here.
You do that on planning board, somebody
then we
comes
can-
in with a
then
developer,
we
you
can
do a conceptual
Go
at
with
the
the
meeting,
names
right?
when that's
But they've
done.
done in preparation for that. and
Well,
often
because they're
have-
coming, because,
Often have consulted with our planning manager ahead of time. It's not like it's, you know, that it's de novo at the committee.
So Jane, I'm really sorry that you feel it's just trustful, and I respect that's how you feel, that's how you feel. You think I was doing anything malicious? You think I was doing something?
that's beside the point to
No,
me.
it's not.
And I don't feel it was malicious, I think you have good intentions. But you have a committee, and you wanna do it differently, it should be done in committee with everybody. And I know that doesn't streamline it, it makes your meeting longer, I've been down that road, there's a number of committees before on that. But I feel like if you came in with that outline and handed it to me,
Yeah?
or send it out, you know, on the Monday, we would all be thinking about that, and we'd arrive here and have those discussions probably pretty efficiently because we had advance notice of it. But I feel like it's most appropriate done here with everybody here.
See, that is the difference between municipal government and corporate government. You can do that with corporate, but you can't.
I don't think I did anything I couldn't do, and it's open for
'Cause,
discussion
I
right
mean,
now.
I just heard about it, I have no idea
And it's
what
open for discussion.
transpired.
It's not like any decisions have been made at all, that
Well,
we're,
that's
It's
not what
already
we're
on
saying.
paper?
I'm sorry?
I'm not saying that you've made decisions. I'm saying it would be most appropriate and most inclusive, and you get your best results when you include your whole committee, right? All right, so that didn't happen. I don't think it's insurmountable, okay? But I feel like from here on, all those discussions should happen here. If you want people to feel like they're spending their time well here, and things aren't pre-planned for them, and that they're having, you know, some ownership in what's gonna happen, then they've gotta happen at the committee.
So, in other words, start with the committee, then go with the individuals.
Yeah.
point
It's-
taken,
all right.
point taken.
You see what I'm
And
saying?
Pretty
in
simple.
hindsight, well, let me first of all say, I apologize if I, in any way, shape, or form, made anybody feel uncomfortable at all right? My bad, I own that. And in hindsight, yeah, I probably should have done it differently. So I
And we're gonna
apologize for that.
take it as.
I'm a
learn
little
the lesson.
concerned for the two individuals who have been sort of tapped for this. I hope this process hasn't made you feel rotten about it.
No, it doesn't, and I think that, Dan and I, I mean, we met for coffee and just
Yeah.
reviewed a few things and stuff, and, and it wasn't, now being in here and hearing about last year with the side conversations and the outside meetings and, all that stuff, yes, I can absolutely understand, the concerns and all that. I mean, nothing was decided, nothing was, and Dan said he was gonna present it, but now seeing it in the bigger picture, yeah, it probably should have been
It
brought
didn't
to
go
the
to
whole
you.
committee and, right, because I wasn't, it wasn't said you are doing this and I'm gonna create this and I'm gonna, it was just like, hey, would you be interested?
But I
And I
also-
said revenue,
Think that,
but,
unless I'm totally out of it, last year, I didn't see it as side discussions outside of committee. It was at that last crunch time at the
Right.
end, and Dimitri was going into the town hall, and, you know, things were going back and forth.
Right.
Okay, we weren't privy to that, but we're already talking about, if you were in charge of this subcommittee, you would be doing that anyways,
Right.
right?
Right.
And we all let Dimitri take the ball and roll with it on that, because nobody wanted to tackle his spreadsheet, really.
Right.
So I don't feel it is the same situation dynamically.
Right.
I feel that there's a plan, Dan's got a plan. I don't know that it's a bad plan, but I feel like it should have been introduced to the committee as a whole. And then you, if you have, you know, obviously if you're a subcommittee, you're gonna meet without the rest of us. But
Right.
those meetings would be posted and I'd still have a right to go to it, for
Right.
instance. But,
Yeah, but I hear,
So,
I hear
yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking of it as a subcommittee, not, this is neither here nor
Yeah.
there. It was just somebody that is like, all right, you're the person that owns this, get whatever resources you need, but make sure that you know what's happening, and what the finish looks like, and how we're gonna get there, and then every step along the way, so we're not, one of the biggest issues last year was we had competing spreadsheets, we had version control issues, we had things that just didn't match. And if one person and their people they're working with are looking at that, we can eliminate a lot of that, so.
but again, I feel like that was end-loaded, that problem. It was not the whole season. Right? But we're making it sound like it was the whole season. It wasn't,
Right.
from my point of view.
It was when things got tense.
And right at the very end, when you're down to, it's gotta be decided, and all of a sudden, like Dave found a column when somebody put numbers in, you know how you can shift a column down? It was shifted down several
Right.
cells.
All right,
So that's why the mismatch was happening. That's understandable, that's a human error, it's not good, but, you know, but that was at the end, that wasn't throughout, like, every meeting. I didn't feel like there were mismatches then.
I would say there were some matches throughout the year, but it got worse at the end. It got much worse. It's what kind of like that. So I apologize. I own it. Let's say next time I would do it differently. What do you think of the idea? And this is for everybody.
Can you tell us what the idea is in full?
Yeah, so the idea would be that you would have an individual, and they would choose one or two others, so we're not going beyond that, because if I jump into something, I want to get close to a quorum. And they would be responsible. In the example that I gave, Tina would be looking at revenue, and she would meet with the town, and she would say, okay, at the very end of the day, what do we have to deliver? All right, how do we get there with spreadsheets? How do we get there with the new IT system? Okay, now what information are we gonna get on what dates, and what's the level of confidence we have in that information? And then work our way backwards so we can see, okay, how the whole year is gonna unfold with revenue. When revenue information did come out, Tina is responsible for looking at it, and she's responsible for going through it and making sure that it's accurate, make sure that all the cells work together, make sure that everything is correct. And then once we have a number that we say is correct, we're like, okay, good, we've really crunched it a lot. The same would happen in this example with Jill, that Jill was doing the same thing with expenses, and we're looking at all expenses of the town, not just police and DPW, but all the expenses. And again, we're looking at when are we getting those numbers? What are they going to look like? How much confidence do we have in them? How many do we have to project because we're not going to have real numbers until later? And then what's the confidence interval in those? And I just think it's an efficient way to use talent. I think it's an efficient way to ensure that we have what we need. Jim?
I like the idea. I'm not sure the right way of dividing up the world. Is it expenses and revenue, or is it by department, or is it by expense type, salaries and other things, or what? I'm just throwing those off. I haven't thought about them at all, but I'm just saying, I think there are probably lots of different ways you could divide it all up.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing? What I heard Ed say, but you keep changing it, unless I've got it wrong, is he said, we're not gonna be using the new system this year in this committee, we're using the old one, correct? No?
No, we should have the new system by May.
Right,
And I'll know more next week. We're having
Okay.
a meeting on that.
all right.
And I'm pretty sure that's what we're gonna do.
It is, okay, because it's not how I understood it.
I think you've had multiple conversations about like, if we're flying the plane and we're building it, right, then we could consider the worst case scenario to be the spreadsheet is where we live. If it's running, this system does dashboards and all of the things we've ever wished for. We won't know until we're using it. I mean, we've seen the preview, right?
Yeah.
Well, they did a presentation here and showed
Yeah,
us
oh, yeah.
quite a lot,
So
so.
anybody that's ever rolled out IT, I'm sure you have,
Oh,
knows
yeah.
that even the best case scenario doesn't happen that first.
Sometimes no one gets to sleep.
Yeah, so we've got to get ahead of this, and that's what I'm trying to do.
So, if we decide who's looking or overseeing what, whether it's by departments or whatever, you're thinking 1 to 2 people, and you're thinking that ducks a quorum.
No, I'm thinking 2 to 3. So for instance, we're Tina and Jim working on revenue, and somebody else wanted to join, that would be a team of 3. I would want them to go in and sit down with Ed and Elisa early on. I want them to sit down with Dimitri early on and see
Wait,
what his
Dimitri's not
spreadsheets.
on this committee.
I know, but I wanted them to understand what his spreadsheets did, how they worked, et cetera, et cetera.
And he's willing to do that?
I'm sorry?
Is he willing to do that?
Yes, he's willing to do that.
I would caution you that you look very carefully at how they operate because there are significant deficiencies in the spreadsheet.
And we're going in eyes wide open.
Yeah.
And we're
No,
not
exactly.
saying that
Don't try to
everything
copy
that
it.
Dimitri had was absolutely right. We're not saying that everything that the town has is absolutely right. We're looking to get to a good place.
Okay, so
And-
now my concern, I'm sorry, Tina, go
No,
ahead.
no, that's okay, Jay. I just wanted to say that with the new software, like, having worked in both worlds and having taken over for a finance director who was strictly on spreadsheets, and I'm telling you, it was, yeah. With the software, having also worked in that world, it streamlines it. So I would like to see us completely get away from the spreadsheets. And then you have the software where if somebody says, oh no, DPW needs this more, you plug the number in, it goes out, you've got your percentage, what it's going up and down. I mean, it just, so,
Yeah, I will
I
say
think
we
that
should-
Dimitri's
we should meet and
spreadsheets
talk
scare
about
me.
that, because the revenue is simple. I mean, the software we have now spits it out, it's done. There's
Right.
nothing to do to
Right,
it.
there's not much to revenue,
There's nothing
so-
we did
Right.
to it in Dimitri's stuff.
Right,
The expense one, he did a good job. Our software doesn't do it. I'm gonna make sure the new software does, but he did a good job of putting that in his thing, and it divided it out by salary, operations, and capital. And it was a really nice breakout of that. Other than that, everything's pretty straightforward. So we can look through those and look at it, but the new system, if it comes online in May, is gonna just simple.
Yeah.
Are we getting bogged down a bit here?
Yes.
yeah.
John, hang
I-
on.
I'm gonna make a
John,
motion
hang on one
to,
second, David's got his hand
Yeah,
up.
I want to say,
Just a process issue, in terms of the efficiency of the subcommittee, I think any more than 2, I think 2 is the right number rather than larger than that. It clearly is way away from any quorum, so you can bring in something to the chair or to another member who may have some expertise without violating that. So it makes a great deal of sense to me to have a team of 2, but not 3.
Okay, thank you.
If,
motion to adjourn.
Wait, no, not yet, John. Shirley's.
if the software is going to
Is someone gonna second it?
Nope, I want to
Okay.
say something. If the software is going to take care of the issue, why do we feel we need to do this?
Because I've seen software make a lot of promises, and new IT implementations make a lot of promises. It's very rare when they hit the timeline they're supposed to hit, and it's very rare that the functionality is optimal when it first launches. So I would hate to learn that in May, June, or July, or even later, and have a problem.
So my question is, Tina and Jill, we already know that in terms of personnel, they don't have spare time.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna be asking time of them, a fair amount of it.
That was my thought.
And so what's your ideas for how to minimize that? Because you want the double check, but if you only got 8 hours in a day, and we take up an hour of it every other week, times 2, what else isn't getting done? So where's the balance there, and what do you suggest?
I think it's a great question. And I think spending a few hours up front to get everybody aligned on process is going to pay benefits down the road. And if we can come to agreement that we're all on the same sheet of music, and then that means every week when numbers come out, we're not having to figure out a new process. The process, we're all using the same one. Number 2, they're going to send those numbers out anyways. They're sending them out to the whole committee on Mondays. All I'm asking these guys to do is to really dig into them and look for any errors. And if they can pick up those errors by like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and then we can make changes.
Okay, so I understand that, but my question was of Tina and Jill.
See, I am certainly not, I mean, having sat in Ed's position,
Yeah,
you know, Annalisa's,
Yeah.
I am not looking to micromanage. I am not
Right.
looking to be in there and, you know, asking for this, that, and the other thing. I mean, I think that, you know, as Dan said, that when the information comes out and to look at it and, you know, kind of delve into it, and then if something blatantly is like, you know, askew or whatever, and then, you know, even calling it up and saying, hey, I just looked at this, was it a typo, is this factual, but not being in their office,
right.
you know,
So-
every day saying, okay, I've got my folder, and I want line by line to
I
go
know.
down through there, you know, and I mean, I'm happy to do revenue, because as far as I'm concerned, that's the
gonna
easy
easier.
one.
That's right.
It's like-
What about the new hire? Wouldn't this come under their responsibility?
Yeah, so the new hire is kind of
They're
like
not
the IT system. We don't know when it's going to be up and running.
Yeah. And Jill, what was it? Would you do the same thing? So you're just gonna look at what you get on Monday and then just call if you have questions?
That's certainly, first of all, when Dan says that we didn't go into this in detail,
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of right tonight building that plane.
right.
As you guys are talking, I'm
Yeah.
just kind of trying to absorb all this, learning a lot. Thank you very much for everybody helping me to learn this. I love what Tina just said. That makes a lot of sense to me. I don't think that it's my job to understand the toilet paper number.
Yeah, right.
I think it is, something I think I could add some value in is looking at the numbers and seeing what doesn't quite make sense. And yeah, maybe if there are 2 or 3 questions
Yeah.
every other week that I shipped over via email, that seems pretty reasonable
Yeah.
to me.
Okay.
This is not where I want to spend the rest of my life either, you
Right,
know?
I know.
So that's what I think right now. I think what Jim, I hope I've got your name right,
Jim.
what Jim just said is a really interesting idea. I
Yeah.
looked at revenue. It is an easy gig.
It is, yeah.
In fact, I want to switch right now.
Hey, I don't think Tina's gonna
So we can give her the tax calculation spreadsheet.
But maybe we could come up with a more creative way to do this. Maybe revenue kind of does take care of itself, you know, doesn't need as much babysitting. Not that any of this is babysitting, but maybe we need a few more sets of eyes on some pieces of the expenses. Maybe that would be the better way to do it. I don't know, I'm thinking about it as we're going tonight, and I appreciate all this discussion because, yeah, I'm coming up to speed, people.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not up to speed.
I think you guys had a lot of time last year on the actual budget, and I will pick on undesignated because that was a sticking point. The undesignated that one changes a lot at the end of the year, right? Like so I would tell you in a corporation, right, I roll into the year end, and because I'm in supply chain, I'm like, if you put something on my dock, I'm gonna refuse it, right? Because that's the smartest thing you can do. In a town, you're like, I'm not gonna not buy the salt, right? If the salt's a good deal on the last day of the year and you have it in your budget, you buy the salt because it's gonna be more next year. So we have some specific things like that were really hard at the end of the year. And some of the moving targets, if you do your projection and then you take the most recent update where that's where we got into trouble last year, because now you've overlaid it with your projection. So I think spending some time in undesignated is another, I spent a lot of time for you guys in undesignated. And I was within like $3,000 of what the budget committee finally landed on. So I feel like they made a very good number. They were higher than I was. That's fine. But, it is something that I think that one also, because it's undesignated, is I would call it a bit of an art form. So if somebody was willing to look at the art form and really be dialing in and thinking about it, it's another one.
Yeah, and I think, that's one that's a lot like a balance sheet.
Yeah.
Throw numbers and you go, here's what we think now. It may be different a few days from now, but as long as you're hitting the dartboard, you don't need to be hitting the bullseye. If we're, I'm gonna throw a number, if we're 50,000 off, in the scheme of things, making a decision whether we should spend fund balance or not, that's not really a big deal. But, we wanna be as close as possible, but.
So conceptually, I think I'm on board with you, Dan, but I think what we should do is the next time we meet, discuss how that split will be. Because I think Jim brought up a good point, so we can all maybe think about, how do we think that would be? Because if you've been on the committee, some departments you spend a little longer on than others because they have more things they have to do and more expensive things they have to do. Right. So maybe we could get it a little more equitable for whatever, maybe it's 3 groups of people or something that do that. And then I'm saying we should adjourn.
Can I just throw your other subcommittee that you've done in the past, which you haven't talked about tonight, is that community subcommittee that puts in a significant amount of time vetting all of those applications. So just be noodling on that community one.
Yeah. Okay. John, before you call for us to adjourn.
No, I'm going to apologize for having done that, because it was way too early.
Thank you. So thanks everybody for the feedback. It's greatly appreciated. I heard you. And yes, we can pick this up next time. Think about it between now and next time. I will continue to do my homework as well. So Ed, next step is, we'd like to have that meeting on the 16th was our preferred date. If we can't get that, if you could let me know as soon as possible and see if maybe we can put something else in that slot of the 16th, like some of the other things we had in mind for training.
Continuation of this discussion.
Yeah, so everybody, if you could please block out the 16th for the next meeting. No, Shirley. Please block out the 16th, but that is subject to change. So it could be the 16th or the 23rd, so maybe you want to block out both of them.
And you're missing 2 members right now too, so you want to very explicitly tell them. Kristen tried getting in and we had a little website issue earlier.
Want to very explicitly tell her the dates?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And Nancy just.
And Nancy is in Greece.
Nice.
Yes.
All right.
She was already there when you said that.
John, anything to say now?
Not a thing.
Let's adjourn.
I'll second that.
There you go.
Okay, one of us is going to turn on the heat. I always have to write us a note to turn on the heat, because if not, DPW comes in the morning and they're very cold. It's very sad for them.
Nice to meet you. You did that. Yeah.
Got one right.